Hello and welcome to Rule of Thirds, a conversation about art, design and culture with your hosts
Burns,
Mike
and Jude.
If this is your first time listening, welcome to the family. Be sure to follow us on our Instagram at Rule of Thirds Pod. Don't be shy to say hi.
A question about the arts and the craft. If you didn't know, then it's good that you asked. You tune into the culture. This the rule of thirds. If you want to, you could tune at work, yeah. And tell me, does that frame fit good? Does it feel right? You want to steal a photo for your website, but you want a logo we can design, right? Yeah.
Faith and creativity, a complex story. We discussed the influence that the church has had on creativity and its implications on the creative scene. Enjoy the episode. Yo! Episode 59 of The Rule of Thirds. How we doing?
We're blessed and highly. Nah, Burns, that was so wild. I'm sorry. I thought I could
Energy.
Yo.
Energy crew.
But yeah, we're good.
Yeah.
I'm good. Sorry.
No.
Let
You
me
can
not
speak
for-
for all of us.
Are you good over there?
Speak
good
for
over
all-
there?
Speak
Good over
for all
there?
men.
Wow. Nah, that sounded mad. Nah, I'm good.
Yeah?
Yeah,
Yeah.
I'm good. I'm good. The weather's getting colder.
Oh my days. It's
You know what I'm
getting
saying?
very cold.
We're truly in Britain.
You said that in a very jolly way.
You know what? I can't even lie. I prefer British winters to
Goth.
British summers.
God forbid. I'm always a summer person because
Yeah, summer's somewhere else. Somewhere here is not nice.
No, it's very like muggy.
Yeah.
summer.
Fam, it feels like I'm in the
it's
swamp.
very-
I prefer it though to the cold.
Too,
Man.
like-
The cold's crazy, man.
The cold is crazy, but I like the gloominess of the days. It makes me feel like I'm in Britain. You know what I'm saying?
Wow.
This
What,
is
depressed?
this is really British.
You know what I'm
weather,
saying? Yeah, you feel like you're really in Britain. Like, wow, I'm abroad. You know,
I'm abroad.
I'm abroad. But yeah, how you man doing?
Alive.
Nah, that was dramatic.
No, alive.
For
though.
real?
Yeah.
When we're out here beating like 4 p.m. sunsets and 10
Oh, yeah.
a.m. sunrises, the vitamin D is really lacking, and I'm feeling it.
Wait, do
You
you
man
take
take-
do you
yeah.
take a supplement?
Yeah.
I need to. I actually need to find like
Go
because
to
apparently
Holland the Barrett,
there's
man.
other stuff that people get. There's this like purple bottled something.
Purple bottle.
Or
Purple
red
Whoa.
bottled something.
All right, Lil Wayne.
Not the lean. Not the lean. Not the lean.
Yeah.
It's not okay. I was gonna say chlorophyll, but obviously that's green.
Wait,
that's
whoa.
plants. But it's like flora something.
Floridix.
That's it.
Flora what?
Apparently it
Floridix.
doesn't do much, though, but like people
Helps
say,
you-
oh yeah, it sounds very Hotep.
Yeah, it does.
But
So
people
basically like
swear by it.
sea moss.
Yeah,
Oh my god.
Okay, I hear it.
yeah.
I
Like,
hear
you
it.
know, Dr. Shelby would be so proud if
Yeah,
you
yeah,
drank your Floridix in the morning.
Wait,
and
is
yeah.
this like a NHS prescribed thing?
No,
or
it's
it's
you
just a
can
vibe?
find it in your local pharmacy, aka Boots or Holland the
Holland's
Barrett.
the
Oh,
Barrett.
swear.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Oh, that's a vibe.
yeah.
Is that expensive? I have to jump on that
Things like
still.
£10 or £15.
Oh.
And what's it meant to do?
If
That's a
you're,
good
if you're very
question.
sleepy, it helps you to give you energy for the day. No?
Sounds blasphemous.
What instead of prayer?
Yeah.
Nah, this segment is poor. this is poor.
What do you mean?
Said, who needs energy drinks? Who needs coffee when you have
just
Jesus
pray about it.
Christ?
Just pray about it. You know?
Wow.
So you feel like if you're tired, you need to pray
I mean, yeah.
for more energy. To be honest,
Yeah.
God can do all things.
So how do you pray for
Do you
yourself?
doubt God?
So how do you ask for this energy? Do you just say energy from above? Or
Bro, it doesn't make it sound like I'm a hype man. It's like, I need
feel-
energy from the crowd.
I
know
feel like God will
prayer is
prescribe you to
personal.
sleep.
ah,
I mean, okay, you know what? More time, yeah, you kind of have to listen to your body anyway. So if the body's telling you that you're tired, then perhaps God is trying to tell you something.
Yeah, God
Yeah,
has your
that's
body in it. So
Facts. But yeah. Well, wait, Burns, have you asked you how you're doing?
no.
no, we haven't. Sorry, that's rude.
How are you doing?
You're right.
I'm doing well. I think last week you spoke about Ghana and we were really excited about the Uruguay game. And we
Listen.
lost 2-0. But Uruguay went out. So
yeah.
yeah.
God works in mysterious
A
ways.
win is a win.
Yeah, win
A
is
win
a
is a
win.
win. Yep.
And then South Korea went through and they got bought by Brazil, so that could have been us. So, I guess I'm happy now because of that. But no, in general, I'm good, man. I'm
Yeah.
good.
That's
I'm
good. That's good. I was gonna say the amount of pictures of Suarez I saw
Yeah, all my
on
boys
my
was
got
Instagram
just-
story. I said
Yeah.
I follow this man many Ghanaians. This is insane.
All my
Funny
boys
thing
got
is
it
that
as their backgrounds.
Some of them weren't even
Exclusive on the
Ghanaian, I bet you.
Probably.
phone. Oh, the Suarez thing.
Like, but yeah,
I know I checked some names because some weren't, but I said, wow.
yeah,
Again.
that was very satisfying.
It was beautiful
It
to
was.
see. I loved it for you guys.
Because I did say Suarez tears pending, but I didn't know how it would come.
Yep.
And it came in the right
Where
way,
there's a
so
will,
I-
there's a way.
Yeah, I'll take that. I'll take that, fam.
How can you be crying when you're winning the match?
Damn.
You know how hilarious
Yeah,
that
how
is?
mad it is.
That is so crazy. But yeah, at least we're here.
Yeah.
Yeah, man.
It's a good way to go out because if we went out any other way, I feel like I would have felt very, very like.
No, but can't lie, they worked
What,
us. though.
embarrassed?
Woo! No, you guys worked us, so.
They did.
He had one player called Anaki Williams, yeah, and Suarez just slapped the ball through his legs.
Yeah, he really thought he had it as well because he closed his leg for
Closed his
time.
leg and-
Open it like.
Got you! Ah. But yeah, man. Ghana always do this in the World Cup, so I'm used to it now. But yeah, in other news though,
Hey.
the census came out.
The census?
Oh yeah, I haven't read it properly yet.
Wait, there's a census?
Census, yeah.
we did it like
And I think
a while ago.
how frequent is it though? It's
every
it's
10 years.
every 10 years, yeah.
Oh, that.
Yeah,
It's like
so-
the purple paper thing.
Yeah, well, basically,
so.
it's like a general population sort of data.
They
where
ask you if you're black, where you're from.
basically how many people are like.
Yeah.
So
Under your household. It was quite invasive.
Leicester,
I'm not gonna lie.
it
Leicester,
was
for
Asking me too many
example,
questions.
Leicester I think it's like 70-something% ethnic or majority, I'll say, not minority.
Yeah.
But yeah, that's Leicester, about 70-something%.
Matters.
And I was like, rah, like, is that students or is that actually like?
No, it's definitely the community.
Nah,
as
the
well.
community is
Leicester.
very,
Yeah.
very.
But the thing is, in Leicester, there's also
I
like,
was only by I almost said they're very ethnic. That was so wrong. Anyway,
something
yeah.
crazy. But yeah, and in that, there was a stat that came out regarding religions and faith. And obviously, this country has a Christian heritage for the first time ever. So I think by what is the terminology they use? I think they use majority. Is it majority? But basically, if it's over 50%, essentially is the majority of the nation. If
Yeah,
that makes
yeah.
sense. But it's now tipped from 59 to about 49.
Oh, okay. So it's not,
Yeah.
it's not majority.
So it's
anymore.
not the majority. So now it's like other faiths like Islam,
agnostic, atheist. Yeah,
I think
yeah.
agnostic
Damn.
atheists growing the most at the moment in the
Mm.
UK. So yeah, I guess I brought the question about like, okay, where does the church sit in like the UK at the moment? See myself,
yeah.
I'm a Church of England goer,
Wait, that's not so much.
which is actually
I am a
crazy.
Church of England.
No,
I pledge allegiance
Yeah.
to the church.
I pledge allegiance to Jesus.
Right.
But
Hallelujah,
no, but I think
hallelujah.
where I sit is like in the Anglican kind of space.
Right.
Right. Okay.
So it's interesting seeing like I guess a shift in terms of like, and to be honest, it's not surprising if I'm being honest, because
yeah, it's not.
I think seeing how the world has changed with like different viewpoints and stuff is like I always kind of saw it coming, if that makes sense.
All right, prophet.
No, not like that. But it's interesting. And I think it kind of begs the question, like, I guess as creatives, like how has the church? I think it's kind of a reflection point, but how has the church influenced our creativity?
Creativity.
Yeah. I think for us, lot, I think
Yeah.
if you give background, because obviously we're not assuming that everybody listening is going to be a Christian as well, innit? So like,
No, of course.
yeah.
I mean, whatever religion, but I mean, because we're speaking about the fact that I guess England is majority. Well, it was majority Christian.
And no, the thing is, it still is because it's still the largest group of.
Okay,
If that
yeah,
makes
yeah, of
sense,
course, of
but it's
course,
not
of
over
course.
50%.
Yeah,
Right.
yeah,
You know what I
yeah,
mean?
yeah.
So it's like it still is the biggest group.
If they were voting
But
on the share board, they'll lose.
Yeah,
Or-
basically, yeah.
I hear it.
They don't have overall power.
Yeah, yeah,
like
of
that.
course.
Yeah. So yeah.
But yeah, in terms of, I mean, the impact of it, I'd say it's interesting because I think one thing that like Christianity specifically used to do was give us, I guess, guiding lights. That sounds weird, but like there were always like central figures
Yeah.
of which we looked like onto to kind of see some level of like, okay, this is a righteous figure, or this is a person who's pious,
Yeah.
or this is
Yeah.
like if you can also do it because so and so do it. And I think even recently with the passing of the Queen, I feel like that was one of the big figures that also kind of left.
Because she spoke about faith a lot.
Yeah, and I mean, she like even the whole like ceremony and them swearing in and so on and so forth. I feel like with those things kind of going, and obviously the rise of technology, I
Yeah.
think we're more reliant. And also, it's interesting, but yeah, we're more reliant on the technology as opposed to, and I use this word very sparingly, but we're less reliant on the spirit in terms of like the vibe or the feeling or whatever people might want to refer that to.
I think culture right now is based on how we feel as opposed to. So I mean, like when it comes to faith and religion, they want to speak about the mind, body, and soul kind of thing, or the soul, body, spirit, whatever.
Yeah.
But like, I think our culture and our society now is based more on the body and the mind,
As
and
opposed
less
to
about the soul and the spirit.
Yeah.
So now you see the rise of like meditation, yoga, things that like actually physically make you feel better.
Yeah.
Therapy, all these different things, and then the soul aspect is now being completely pushed to the side. If that makes sense. So we're seeing natural progression.
Yeah. And so like even in relation to the creative part of it is that now we don't know how to tap into that source because we don't understand why we need it anymore. Because like, for example, before, in order to get that inspiration to sit down and take a pencil and sketch something from your brain, because you really didn't have any kind of, you didn't have a Pinterest board or whatever, to go and pull that inspiration from. Yeah. You relied on pulling that inspiration from a higher source.
Yeah.
And now, because the internet is the higher source. So if you need inspiration, you go to that higher source. I feel like that's kind of the, in my opinion anyway, the biggest shift.
Yeah, it's like a replacement, because ultimately we talk about God being all knowing and but then the internet is almost like it sounds harsh to say, but almost like an alternative for people now.
Yep, exactly that.
So it's like almost a reliance on technology to be my God, my provider, my source of information.
Yeah,
which is
exactly.
Yeah,
and I think because of that, it's made a lot of creatives. I don't want to say lazy because I feel like that's not the right word, but it's made us more complacent. We're not searching for anything anymore. We're creating, like, now obviously like art has become content, as opposed to just art. And I feel like that's what's missing, or that's what religion brought to creativity, was that pious figure. That's what art was doing. It was giving you the stained glass windows. It was giving you those paintings of like Renaissance, like the Jesus and like the 12 disciples eating. Like those kind of those feelings, you don't get that anymore with art because that spirit is kind of like gone. You know, I feel like that's probably, for me anyway, the biggest thing that's kind of like, I guess, it's impacted creativity. But yeah, what do you man think?
I think I've been thinking more on like from a different side of things, probably more about like the role the church has like played in society. So like back in the day, churches were more involved with like certain artists, for example. They would commission certain people to do things like with the Sistine Chapel and like Michelangelo, like they paid him a fee to like do that and stuff. And maybe the church had like a better hand in
I say culture.
Yeah, that it was a lot. There
were tastemakers.
No, crazy enough, the church really pioneered a lot of that.
100%. Like there's that, and like also the role a church played in society, the impact was like it was deeply intertwined with culture and the way things were run.
It was a community haven. Because think about it, like if you look in England specifically, like every single city or every single town has a church. And back in those days, a lot of these churches will be community spaces where people will go there. People go there for after school clubs even. I remember when I was a kid, I went to a Catholic school, and there was an after school club, a morning club, breakfast club I used to go to in the morning. And the church basically acts as a space where people can come and commune as a community. Do you know what I mean? Despite whatever faith or whatever, do you know what I mean?
Right,
so
yeah. But like, so it's the stuff like that. But then also like the way countries were run, especially like the church had a say in the way like laws were implemented and that
like
kind of thing. Like
state thing.
Yeah. Okay. Like I think this is like brushing on like GCSE history, but like King Henry VIII.
Oh gosh.
And the whole like
that man there.
Catholicism, Protestantism, Protestants. And then the role that like churches played in regards to like who could marry who at the time,
lawmaking,
and stuff like that. So it was like heavily intertwined, and then over time, I feel like that has kind of like split. So faith has been on one side, religion's been on one side, and then law and all this other stuff has been on the other side as well.
Are you talking about England?
Yeah, in England specifically.
Because America right now don't seem like that. America still feels like if I'm right wing, I'm like a Christian. If I'm left wing, then it's like a more liberal.
But more people, maybe now is a bit different, but
I was gonna
before,
say, yeah,
like,
before it was
they were
like that.
very much into their Christian values, and they really, and that really led how like
They would
people
make
implement policies
choices,
and that
yeah,
kind of
yeah.
thing and stuff as well. Like,
Yeah.
oh, when people talk about like pro-life, pro-choice, or drugs and stuff like that, it was
Yeah.
very much from a Christian perspective,
yeah,
or the
yeah, yeah.
importance of like marriage and relationships, which is again, these things really come from like Christian influences
Yeah,
in a sense.
yeah.
And I feel like over time, as like politics has been on one side, religion's been on the other, I think it's happened in other areas. And I don't know what happened in like the early 2000s with like, or the late 90s with like the rise of the internet.
Mm-hmm.
But I kind of feel like when I think of like the days of Michelangelo, when the church was more heavily involved in art and in creativity,
Yeah.
to like, I don't know, the 1900s.
Mhm.
I don't know what happened. I haven't done any reading on it, but like, I always wonder like, okay, when did the split between like creativity and religion like kind of happen? Because I feel like when we looked at the internet, from my own, I guess, experience, I kind of felt like the churches were wary of like media and the internet because it seemed like such a tool that could allow for anything to happen in any form of influences.
Yeah.
And even though, yes, some people use like media wealth, like televangelism, and to like
Yeah.
share the gospel and all that kind of stuff, when it came to like the creative side of things or the other side of things that it could possibly be used for, it's almost like I don't know. It almost seems like somewhere maybe people didn't adopt it as quickly. So then obviously the world moved so quickly
Couldn't keep
to
up.
like, and they couldn't keep up in a sense. Because now I feel like we're in a space with like religion and creativity where right from the religious like communities is that we're playing catch up
Yeah.
with a lot of
Yeah,
stuff.
yeah.
Like in music it's probably different because again, you look at gospel, especially with like black music in America, for example, like they pioneered so many different things and so many genres and stuff, right? Or like you think of the best R&B singers and people always say, oh yeah, it's because they came from the church,
Yeah.
because they could sing really well, and you have to sing in front of people and they care about the craft as well, and that's why people even say like,
even till now, Ed Sheeran came from the church. He was a gospel choir singer. Like,
That is
yeah,
hilarious.
And
there's,
it's
there's
cra-
so,
it's
there's so
crazy how
many
many
people I
people-
hear, and I'm just like, it's insane.
how many people actually?
But it makes so much sense now.
Yeah.
it makes sense, doesn't it?
That gives me that hill so
But it's
bad.
like,
Yeah.
but it's like, raw. Why was the church that place where the best creators were almost birthed? If that makes
Yeah.
sense.
My friend said even Pink used to go to church. And
I'm
I was like, that's
I
crazy.
see that too.
Yeah.
She seems
Pink.
like the rebellious
And then
child who left the church.
I found out that Yeba was a pastor's daughter. I said,
Yeah,
that's,
yeah, makes
that's
sense,
mad.
makes-
that
complete
that
sense.
also makes sense.
Yeah.
PJ Morton, pastor's son as well.
Yeah.
Really?
Yeah, what?
That makes
Bishop
sense.
Morton. That's his
Yeah.
dad. Yeah. Yeah.
But I think to your question about where do you like where was more rhetorical, but I feel like once there was a massive rise in philosophy, that's when Christianity kind of pulled back a bit, because I feel like philosophy is what has kind of lent to, I guess, the rise of the internet in a very indirect way, not necessarily directly, but I think there's a scripture in the Bible about like the sin will rise as I think it's the wisdom of the world or something like that.
I think
Something to do with the
Right.
wisdom of the world, like
Mhm,
growing, and we will kind of like ignore God. Basically, I'm paraphrasing very, very poorly, but yeah, I think that's what's happened. Before, like you were saying about how the church has a lot of play in how people thought.
yeah. It had a
So-
lot, but if we're being real as well, the church had a lot more control
Yeah,
too. Like,
yeah.
it's very much if the
Exactly,
church says this and you
exactly.
do opposite, you're looked at a certain
Yep.
way, or you can be prosecuted for that
Yeah.
too.
So I think because
I think
because
the
there was a
church
school
brought-
of thought,
I think the church brought a lot of order though, because the thing is,
that's debatable.
it's debatable. But in terms of like,
Oh,
there's certain laws, for example, and I'm talking about like, let's go back to the basics, like the Ten Commandments, for example. Obviously, that's in Judaism, for example. But I'm saying like in terms of like the Christian thinking, like the sort of the Judaism,
Judaic,
kind of, like,
yeah.
like it was those principles like do not kill, do not commit adultery, those kind of like there was a set of order. And again, once all these, and the thing is, all this philosophy and stuff, that was from even the Bible days. So if you go to like, the city of Corinth, for example, and even the city of Rome, Rome was like a London. If you think about it in terms of like how diverse in thought it was, how many people and cultures intersected. Do you know what I mean? So it's like, I feel like we've always been in this spot, but I think the internet has magnified it like massively. Because if you
That's
think,
interesting.
when we look at the census, for example, more social media platforms have grown since the last census, for example. There's more information, there's more
Yeah, 100%.
movements, there's more things have happened. So now even look at like, there's a lot of trauma that's happened, especially if we look at the black community for ourselves anyway. A lot of people now pushing towards this like sort of Hebrew Israelite or these like
Wait, are they?
Please,
No,
let's say African spiritualism.
African,
African side of things as well as the
Yeah.
Hebrew as well.
No, but it's that's part of it. That's like a
Because I
subsection
can't like
of
that's been happening.
Yes,
For a while.
but then
Since
think
I
about
was born.
think about it this way: when you're seeing the news saying another black life is gone,
It's
another
a-
this is gone, more people are now
Also,
saying
you feel like that is radicalizing people into thinking a particular
because
way.
now it's become messy because like even like I heard that the painting that this white Jesus was like based
about
on was
him.
actually like an Italian king or whatever.
Right.
Back in,
Lol.
and it's like this thing about it's the white man's religion and all, when the
Yeah.
Bible wasn't even sitting in Europe or anything like that.
Yeah.
But is this that thing of like this polarized world where it's like these are what I'm going through. This is my traumas.
Mm-hmm.
So if
Oops, sorry, that was me. And
I don't know what that sound was.
what was that?
there was like something in my
He was
throat.
downloading some data. Man said,
whoa.
fiber optic.
Probably not.
It's like
But like,
Sorry.
yeah, I think as subjects have happened, situations have happened, it's almost like people have seen the church as like sometimes a scapegoat, even though they have done things that have hurt people. I won't say
Ooh.
that, but what I'll say is this: the church can be very used as a scapegoat on a lot of topics.
rightly so.
Yeah, no, because the church has hurt a lot of people, and that's not even a lie. That's
Yeah.
a fact. But naturally, because the church has done that,
Mm.
the first thing to think of to blame will be the church, because it's like,
Yeah.
do you know what I'm trying to say? Based on the heritage of this country, based on all these
Yeah.
things, is like the first thing to attack.
Because
attack, if that makes sense.
like you're saying about, even if you go back to like, for example, your example of the Ten Commandments and stuff.
Yeah.
Like there are laws that predate the Ten Commandments that
Mhm.
also state things like do not kill,
Mm.
do not. Some are even more extensive.
Mhm.
And I think that I wouldn't necessarily credit those specific laws to just the
Christianity.
Judaic, like
Oh, sorry.
the
Judaism,
Judaic religions. Personally, anyway, that's my personal opinion.
Yeah.
But
So,
I
yeah.
think that the reason why I keep going back to the idea that perhaps philosophy is what has pushed us, because the thing is, the pursuit for more knowledge
Mm.
will always push you to kind of challenge your current knowledge, right?
But the pursuit of more knowledge will also push you to insanity.
Nah,
Not
I
not
don't
always.
think
Because
that's
your pursuit of knowledge. What is the end destination?
no. So the thing is, like, there isn't necessarily a destination, but wherever you are, you want to understand where you are, what you're doing, why you're here. These are questions that go
Yeah.
through every single human being,
Yeah.
especially creators. If we're going to be very, very real,
I think creators. That's the biggest question.
you know what I'm saying about like
Yeah.
why am I doing what I'm doing? Like, what am I
Mhm.
creating for?
Mm.
This is why creatives have pushed away. I wouldn't say all creative, but there's a massive population of creatives that have pushed away from religion and I guess more so conventional. Is it conventional? Yeah.
No, I'd say it's
yeah.
more conventional than like if
Yeah.
you think about spirituality isn't the most conventional practice.
Yeah.
And
So a lot of people
why
have
would you
pushed
say
away.
that? Let's
Bec-
stay on that
Like
for a bit.
if we're okay, I think because like we've been brought up in like religious backgrounds,
Mhm.
so our like reference point will always be this. Whereas for other people, if I consider them, it's interesting who you would consider the norm.
Mhm.
But like if I consider the worldview of someone who's not been brought up from a religious background,
Mhm.
faith is not logical. So of
Yeah.
course, like you having to consider a deity of some sort
To
is
them,
very
it's just weird.
It's very weird.
Yeah.
Whereas like when you've known that all your life, it's just like, oh, that's just all I know. And
Yeah.
then for some people who even like leave that, it's still a weird thing of like, oh, but there's something there. Or I know some people like will say, oh, I know there's something there, but I just don't know what it's called and that kind of thing. Or they'll become agnostic and not atheist because there's that idea of like a
Perhaps,
higher
yeah,
presence
there
and
could be,
stuff.
yeah, there has to be, surely.
Yeah. So that's why I'd
know.
say it's more like unconventional.
Yeah.
But I feel like the reason to answer the question, the reason why I feel like people go for something else other than religion is because religious spaces haven't been able to widely, globally, in my opinion anyway, I don't feel like they've been able to accommodate for like all of these ideas and all of this innovation that we've seen in the world. Again, if you compare it to like the scale of things or like the growth in media in church, again, from my perspective, I feel like we're always playing catch up from like
Yeah.
the church's point of view.
Yeah.
And sometimes I do feel like maybe it's because we've seen it more as like a threat rather than
Yeah, when
So
a tool.
when something is brand new, I think especially from growing up, as I'm talking from my perspective again, someone may say I'm wrong, whatever, but like I've seen that the church has demonized
Exactly.
the creative arts.
Yeah.
So I remember when I used to grow up in church or wherever, like I say used to, I still am. But when I was growing up in a certain church environment, my idea of creativity was really shone upon. Like it wasn't even like, bro, don't bring that up.
Yeah.
Don't even
Yeah.
bring that up because it's like, like even Kirk Franklin collaborating with like a Chance the Rapper, or man had problems with that, and for me that angered me because it was like, is this the thing of like,
I can't like that I get.
No,
I get that anger. I get that anger.
I get what? As in my
Because of the quality of music or what?
Their anger. I get their anger.
Who? The church.
Well, the church, yeah.
The reason why I didn't like that is because again, okay, what I believe anyway. Because let me put it like this: I don't think the church is there to help creatives. I think it's a bigger picture than that. It's a byproduct that the creators will be helped, if that makes sense.
Right.
So let's break down Christianity, because a lot of people don't even know what Christianity is. It's simply, I am a sinful person, right? I can't pay my own sins. So essentially, Jesus came down on earth.
The bank came through.
I'm not serious.
I
Yeah,
ain't gonna use that analogy.
What do you mean? They
anyway.
covered your debt? It's a bank.
That's
What, you think it's not?
Let me finish anyway.
Oh.
a
So,
bank of
no,
love.
I know what you're gonna talk about anyway, but yeah, not that one. I don't like that analogy. He came down, essentially paid that debt for you with your Jews bank card.
No.
The
And
blood.
essentially, like, we are free to live. Like we're not subject to that punishment of God. We're not subject to the wrath of God because Jesus paid that. So essentially,
Interest-free loan, yeah.
Screaming.
we essentially walk in the righteousness of God, essentially, right?
Yeah.
And the thing is, like, that is the thing about identity.
Mm-hmm.
So for me, I don't see when it talks about the church and creativity, it's almost like a byproduct. So now that I'm free in my identity,
Now you can go and use that.
that's the kind of the launch pad, the platform where I can do all things. If that makes sense. So it's not a thing of the church is there for me to become a better creative. It's a byproduct of that freedom, that new identity you have in Jesus.
So you see, I
Yeah.
get what you're saying.
Yeah,
but the
But-
church, you're thinking of the church as a limited space, as in like maybe like a building, like for example.
The church is not a building.
So if you
Yeah.
think about it as a school of thoughts
Yeah.
or a belief system,
Yeah.
then that's when it becomes more complicated because
Mm-hmm.
technically your belief system should affect every single area of your life
Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah.
and not just perhaps be the thing of like, okay, because I believe just the foundational principles, that's it. Those foundational principles shouldn't stop there. For example, if you believe that Jesus Christ came to die for your sins and he came to save your life and you're going to have salvation and go to heaven, it shouldn't just stop there.
It doesn't stop there.
So that's what I'm saying.
It's beyond that.
Exactly.
Yeah,
so
yeah.
then it doesn't just become maybe a launch pad. It should in essence change the living fiber of
It
every
should be
single
like
person.
it
But
should be
that's-
like a radical. Like,
Yeah,
But
I think
that's
you
what
know what I'm saying.
That's what I mean though by a launch pad. It's a new.
Yeah,
it's a
but
complete-
which
yeah.
which I get
Yeah,
because
yeah.
I think I feel like you're both saying
It's
the
the same. It's
You're
the
both
same
saying the same thing.
I agree with what you're
But
saying.
the
No, I
thing
agree
is,
with what you're saying.
with I feel like for what Burns is saying, it's more like for the individual that should be a thing for every single individual. But the reality is that's not the thing for every single individual.
Oh, is that what you're saying?
Which
Not every single church may preach the same gospel.
yeah.
Oh no, okay,
So-
that I get.
So-
that I
so-
get.
So with that freedom, like the issue now comes in where I feel like that should be the thing. Everyone should like have that, like, you know, that's your guiding principle throughout life. But when you're now part of a collective space, communities, a church where
And
You're
that's
supposed
where the
to-
complications come. Because
Exactly.
I think what's happened is that there are the foundations of faith that bring freedom. But when the church comes in, that's where people come in. That's where ideas come in. That's where pride and ego comes in. And actually, you might see a more complex pattern of like people maybe controlling things in a way that's actually not good for it's not good for your faith. And actually,
but it's also because like some people don't see, because they don't understand something, or they may not have the vision for something. It's almost like because it supersedes my own understanding, it must be wrong.
Yeah.
What do you mean?
More like like
as in becoming a believer.
no.
Or-
That aside, everyone's a believer. But like let's say from this, how faith acts as like a springboard for you to be like your fullest self in a sense. To in all areas of your life, you're supposed to like move in a certain way, right? The issue I see is that freedom, or that, because again, we're all completely different as well, and
The freedom isn't
the
real.
freedom is
It's not as free as.
What do you define as freedom?
Wait, Michael, finish.
no,
it and then
not
I'll-
okay. some churches do this thing where it's almost like they try to cookie cut what that freedom should look like, or what that expression, that God-like expression in your life should look like for you. They try and cookie cutter it in a format that should work because that's how they see things working, or because that's all they know, not because they're open to the, let's say, the mysteries of God, or they're open to how God might want to express that in through you in that way.
So,
and I think that's where the issue happens, like a lot of the time.
Do you feel like churches have made like a template of this is how you should be if you're a Christian?
I don't think that they've made a template, but I just feel like there's a lot of micromanagers in church in general as a school of thought. Because I don't want, the thing is, when the reason why I keep saying school of thought is because if we push into the religion and more faith-based part of it, then what happens is that it becomes about spirituality, and in that case, I can't be right, and you can't be right. Do you get what I'm saying? It becomes a very grey area.
Like that's why we need to distinguish it. Because, okay, are we speaking about...
I'm speaking more about the belief system of Christianity.
And the belief system by who?
No, by the Bible.
By the Bible.
Yeah.
By the Bible.
Yeah.
So
and when we say when I say freedom, it's not like you have the freedom to do anything you want. That's not the freedom I'm talking about.
Yeah.
The freedom to be your fullest God-ordained quote unquote self.
But you're saying that somebody else is prescribing that for you.
No, as in what happens is that people, when you're trying to live in that truth, let's say, people limit it because they may not fully understand what that expression may look like. So let's say you go to great example. There's a lot of creatives that grow up in church, let's say, who are musicians.
Yeah.
Right? And they play, let's say someone plays the keys, and let's say the pastor or like people within that church community, because culture comes into play a lot of the time as well, especially for us being black, like African cultures, Caribbean cultures come to infiltrate that too, which kind of like adds another layer of like the things that you should do and you shouldn't do. So let's say now people are used to hearing like a hymn format of, okay, we're supposed to have like, hymns has, talked about they're historical, they've been around for a really long period of time.
They respect,
it's from a crazy situation that happened and we're going to stick to this, and there's the old English that we still want to use because it's respectful and it's formal. Now let's say this musician now wants to write their own songs, and they want to include different kind of instruments, or maybe now because we're in the 21st century, they want to include something a bit electronical as well, like electronic music. Maybe somebody wants to use, I don't know, beats in there as well on a Sunday service, and now people are like, oh, the genre is not sounding like the music that we're used to.
They'll tell you it's not even Christian.
It's not Christian.
Yeah.
It's an issue.
That's wild.
No, but like,
it's not wild at all.
No, I'm not saying it's wild, but I'm saying that is a wild way to think about.
But it's common.
No, I'm not saying it's not. I'm saying I agree with you guys, but I'm saying to think of that limited perspective of God is wild.
But that's part of the problem, and that happens in so many like areas, because for some people it's like Christianity is supposed to let me watch my words. Okay. Christianity to some people looks a certain way, and when I say this, I don't mean about the beliefs. I mean like how it should be expressed.
Representation of it.
Yeah, the presentation of it, the lifestyles that you live, or the way you, down to the way you dress, the way you speak. Respectability politics sometimes comes into play. Like, oh, you need to wear a suit and tie in order to come to church. Cover your hair,
cut your hair.
And sometimes I understand there's modesty. Cool, you don't want to do whatever. But I'm not gonna lie, sometimes modesty, a lot of the time it's under the male gaze, because you don't want the uncle to say.
Don't tempt your uncle.
Imagine
it's very layered.
You're telling, how are you telling like a 12-year-old girl like, oh, cover your you need to wear a long skirt because you don't want to distract like the uncles in church. Are you guys mad?
No, but I'm saying that example is too
specific.
It's specific, but it happened in another way. Let's say if you were to go to a Catholic church, like for example. And there are reasons I get, but like if you were to go to the Vatican tomorrow, let's say a woman was to go to the Vatican tomorrow, you have to still cover up. Like when you're there, you can't just wear anything. Like they will say, oh, can you please put on like a shawl or something? Bearing in mind, there's no church service going on.
Just in the city.
You're just in the city, and it's obviously nowadays it's more seen as like a monument or a mark and stuff. I'm not saying it's right or wrong, but I'm saying it's still that expectation that you still have to cover up. And then you see the way that like sexuality in terms of like talking about it, expressing it is suppressed. But then you also see the ramifications of that suppression where people are using their power to abuse in a sense. So like the reason I say that is because there's a culture of the things that you shouldn't do, the things that you shouldn't do, but it leads to like this outcome of people now maybe doing things because it's been so suppressed. So that's why I'm saying like it may happen in a different way, but similar things still kind of happen in a lot of the like types of churches and stuff around.
Because, like, honestly speaking, I don't want to be the person who says maybe this particular church or that particular sect of people. The reason that's why I keep going back to that whole idea of the school of thought. Because the thing is, like you said earlier, we're humans, innit? So we're always going to subvert and change.
There's always gonna be some layers. That's why I keep on saying, like, again, I mean, we spoke about we're talking about biblical principles or whatever. But I'm saying, like, for me, I feel like the biblical principles, they don't change. God, like, okay, let me put it like this.
If they don't change,
God never changes. That's a fact.
And I think that's where it comes to, though.
People are changing, and people manipulate that,
and that's
to make it fit their agenda.
That's the issue. So, like, what you're saying, for example, like, I agree with like, what you're saying in terms of like, obviously, like, things are in place. God doesn't change. It's like, people, culture, whatever. But there's an issue that the reality is, even though that may be the like Christian truth, that's not being lived or
everything else is happening
in its entirety. There's people changing it up a bit. There's people adding their own agenda to stuff. And so now the reality is, even though we can claim that as a truth, it's almost like, it reminds me when people say like, weird example, but I'll still use, but like, how people can say like racism still exists, but then other people will be like, oh, but I haven't been affected in a sense, but it still like doesn't take away from the fact that like it's still happening. The reality is still very much around, but like in certain places it's not. Some people may not feel it, but it doesn't negate from it actually like happening. And like the issue at hand is that we need to like sort it.
Yeah. So
stuff.
it's not saying
I'll ask the
saying
question
like,
now.
It doesn't exist.
No, it does exist.
Yeah.
But it's a question of like, okay, out of that place, where do you go from there? Because it's like, unfortunately, it's a thing where I can't really see. I feel like that habit is going to continue. Like
what habit?
In terms of people, lack of integrity. In terms of like, you say this, I believe this, but behind my back, I'm doing this.
I think and there's a thing.
I know even this in Christianity.
Yeah, all across the board.
All
like,
across,
happens,
yeah.
Like,
so it's like, okay, that is so. But as I guess, how has that affected the creatives in that space? Because we're talking about like, so we spoke about the lack of integrity. Essentially, that's
I guess. But like,
how does that affect the creative?
So this is what I was saying earlier, that because it's the beliefs are very cut clear what they should be.
Yeah.
So it doesn't give you a lot of room to expand on what's already there, because everything is there. From what we've been told, everything is in the Bible. All the principles are there. Whatever you need, inspiration. If you're tired, if you need healing, if you need whatever you need is in there. So what happens is that.
So you can't. Because okay, someone, and the thing is, Christianity is so complex in itself. Some people will believe only the Bible speaks. Another person may say only prayer. Another person will say Bible and prayer. Another person, do you know what I mean? So it's like it's more.
So this is why again back to my point.
Yeah.
I'm only speaking about school of thought, which is the belief system, aka the Bible. Anything else other than that is faith based, and I can't, like, on this conversation anyway, based on creatives, I can't go into it because we all have our personal beliefs, and that's separate to the physical thing that we can all read and see. Do you get what I'm saying? Anything like prayer and stuff, I totally agree. I'm not against it at all. I pray, but I think that that's separate from this, because then we can't have any kind of like, you can pray about wanting a car tomorrow. There's nowhere in the Bible that it might state clearly that if you pray for a car, you will get it. However, your faith will push you into believing that you can get a car, and you can get a car, and that you can accredit that to your faith. That's fine. That's up to you.
Another man would say that's prosperity.
Do you know what I'm saying? But that's up to you. But going back to the whole, I guess, the school of thought, Christian based, even Islam based, or basically the Judaic ones, because I guess that's what we're talking about specifically here, which in for a long time has been the major three religions of the world. Hindu and other ones are big, but I wouldn't say that these are the ones that we're used to.
I think
if those three,
about Europe, in Asia, it would be.
Yeah, even in Asia,
African countries too. Like,
exactly.
Too.
Yeah.
So if we're talking about those, then creatively speaking. Because the thing about creativity is that, again, going back to the first point that I made, it's meant to make you see something that's bigger than yourself, right? So if you see this kind of pious big images and big statues and stuff, they make you feel like, wow, like we're so small. We're like like, do you get what I'm saying? There's something bigger than us, basically. Art is faith. Do you get what I'm saying? So because religion is very closed off to expanding outside of the belief system, anything outside of, like, even, in fact, if you went back 1,000 years and told someone that the internet exists, they'll tell you a witch. Do you get what I'm saying? So these are the factors that, I guess, like Mike was saying, we're still playing catch up. Religious people are still playing catch up to technology and stuff, and that's not because they don't want, like, they hate technology, but it's a slower process of trying to understand how that can fit into their belief system.
Yeah, because it's
and
almost being cautious, and I think it's also like that fear of, and sometimes I say
like,
fear
it could
of
be a
God.
sin.
I say fear of God, but sometimes I don't think it's fear of God. Sometimes I think it's fear
No,
of the authority that you're under, if that makes sense.
No, but sometimes it is. It's like fear of, like, other people's opinions and what they will think.
Yeah, but I think that's more than God. I don't think they even look at God. I think it's more fear of, like, what we're talking about. So it's like, ultimately, it's like, if you're like a 18-year-old in a church or whatever, and you're like, I want to make these beats in church, I want to do this, and we can praise like this, we can do like this. You're scared that if you say that to the older in the church, they're gonna be like, "Nah,
we're not talking about trap mash, by the
way." Like, don't do that around here. Go do that somewhere else, for example. And I think sometimes, like, cause there's not that space to create and that place to think. Because you know what is, yeah, I think people are. When I've grown up, I think people were scared of, like, okay, if I allow this boy to think, how far can he go?
And this is the problem, because not allowing the room for that kind of freedom is what causes at times that frustration.
And rebelliousness.
No, it's true.
Now you go search for somewhere else.
Exactly.
To find that freedom.
That will, and plus those places that will accommodate you as well, and like we'll be happy to have those discussions. Like, I remember in my church anyway, one of many, that I couldn't, like, and part of it is a cultural thing as well, specifically in my case, Nigerian church.
Right.
So not only am I dealing with my Nigerian culture, but also Christianity on top.
Right.
In some places, like, wow, okay, so you want to do this thing, but we don't do that here. So like, why the hell are you, like, what are you talking about? And their reference points are like Illuminati style, you know.
But they're trying to make the Illuminati.
No, church. You know, like, that's their viewpoint. Their viewpoint is
demonic.
People, it's quite a common thing, even like outside of like African culture. People in America, a lot of Republican people saying, "Oh, this is the devil's music."
Yeah.
You know, and stuff like that. So like, when everything outside of Christianity, let me change. When there are things that don't necessarily speak on God directly, everything other than that is seen as evil for some.
Yep. There's no
gray. It's if it's not talking about Jesus Christ being on the cross, I don't want it.
Yep.
Kind of thing. But
Jesus, the thing is, and that's what I was saying, like, when you give your life to Jesus, that goes through your whole, like, that transforms your whole life. So it transforms how you deal with relationships. It should.
But remember, people are also being taught by a group of other people who are in, again, but I think culture has a massive part to play in that. It does.
It's like, I remember, like, in a lot of African churches. I don't know African churches, but even like the American kind of churches as well.
Yeah.
It's this thing of almost like,
even Catholic churches.
let me talk about the charismatic Pentecostal church for now, innit? I felt like when I was growing up, it was like you'd watch these like these massive, like, everyone be wearing their suits and tie, and it's like, how dare you, like, almost like deviate from what we're teaching right now, if that makes sense.
See, I never experienced that, so I think it's a personal anecdote.
No, but it was a real thing. Like, how, like, the thing is, like, gospel music, for example. Like, I use this example of Kirk Franklin. My man came out, did the revolution thing, and man were bugging out like he had basically joined
Bad Gang.
Bad Gang. Do you know what I mean? Because the Sonics were different.
But also the people he was, like, collaborating with too.
But this is what I'm saying. This was why I have a bit of
a... The church is not an exclusive club, but people have made it like that.
No, of course. But I think, see, that is layered. Because with Kirk Franklin, I remember when I was in Ghana and I first heard Kirk Franklin, like, I think, like, a few weeks after they put in they were doing Stomp, every single, like, birthday party. They were playing Stomp and
Yeah,
Revolution
that was coming out.
for the kids because they thought, wow, this is what the kids like,
Yeah.
and this is more catered to them.
Mhm.
Let's play it for them. At least it's Christian. Wow, we thank God.
Mm.
That was their.
What,
That was
what makes it Christian?
no. It's from a
It's-
Christian
it's-
person.
Yeah, but
The lyrics as
The
well.
lyrics are very Christian. Let's
but
be real.
that's the thing, and I think that's where we had the problem. Because
No,
it's-
but in this particular situation,
Yeah.
like the older generation, from my again, that's what I'm saying, it's very anecdotal because
Mm-hmm.
in my situation, the older generation were happy that they had something that was
They
from a Christian
Mm.
They
source
can
to
vibe
offer
to.
because they knew it's either that or you go and listen to Shatawali. And do you get what I'm saying? So like, and even if you go to Ghana, yeah, look, I remember when I was growing up, like
Oh, finish.
on the radio, right? On the radio in Ghana, it's very hard to differentiate a gospel song from just
Yeah, because
a quote unquote worldly song because the beats and
sound. Yeah,
so that's what I'm saying that it's
imagine.
very specific. It's very anecdotal because if you go Ghana, that's not how it was. If you go Nigeria, half of the songs in Nigerian gospel music, like even now, if you go clubs, people be playing Igwe. Do you get what I'm saying?
I find that so crazy.
So this is what I'm saying.
Oh,
Like
God.
like but when it comes to that particular thing about music, I don't think that
it's
it's
African.
I don't think it's an because African music sounds the same in church and it sounds the same outside.
But then what about Western music?
that's a
That's-
different.
Yeah. Because I think that's where we go. Because I think for me, like, okay, there's books in the Bible like Proverbs and Ecclesiastes, for example.
Song of
That-
Solomon.
So you're a naughty boy.
Favorite.
You're a naughty boy. But those things are like they're wisdom books, for example.
Yeah.
And I see faith like that in a sense of actually it's what I'm actually going through.
Right.
Mm.
And I think what's happened is that we're not hearing songs about like unless he says like Jehovah Jireh or
You're
Yeshua
like, nah.
or something. I don't want to hear that song
Mhm.
because actually there's actually Christian principles living they can speak about in, and sometimes it doesn't even be that. Sometimes it could be like, can't lie, I'm having a really hard time in life,
Because it's the same
and
people.
I wanna basic. Do you know what I mean? Like,
Yes.
yes. But then the thing is, if I hear that, hey, don't play that in the.
No,
Yeah.
but it's funny because like when let's say a situation now happens, and let's say when people are going through heartbreak, it's not Jehovah Jireh.
Yeah,
You
nah,
are
nah,
enough.
nah.
That's not what you
Man,
want to hear.
them are not listening to that.
You want to
Unfortunately,
hear.
it's not,
You want to hear a breakup song?
bro.
Fam,
Like,
you know what I realized? Yeah, where are all the Christian breakup songs?
Ask
we don't
them.
have any, bro.
But okay, you know what? That's even controversial because first of all,
Should-
you shouldn't
should
be
break
dating.
And no, but that speaks to the wider problem
Yeah.
because
Yeah,
because
yeah.
we have like done such a job of like putting the do's and don'ts of the things that you should be
Yes.
doing as Christians.
So it's even possible to have the solution for
Yeah,
us-
a real life situation.
Listen
It's
to
like,
us, so it's
no,
actually like
we
a-
don't talk about those things because what's that? Dating? No,
Yeah,
you need
yeah.
to marry. You
Yeah.
date to marry. That person that you will need to be with is the love of your life. God will give you a vision of who you're going to marry. That doesn't work for everybody,
Nah,
bro.
it really
So like when, and that's part of the issue as well. Like when people say this is the way to do something, and then influential figure saying this thing, and everybody's trying to follow this blueprint, and then they realize, oh, this ain't working for me.
Nah, it's not.
It
Yeah.
creates so much like chaos, and I
Confusion.
think,
Yeah.
and it's so ironic because God is. We say God is a God. God is a God of impossibility. God, he's so wide. Oh, he's so big. He's so
then they limit him.
omnipotent, omnipresent, omniscient. All of this, we're using all of these words and all of these things to
we put him in a
describe like
box.
such a God that's able to do absolutely anything.
and then we limit him.
Then we limit him
Yeah.
in
Yeah.
our offerings to him, in a sense. So it's just very, it's very mad.
It's contradictory, basically.
It is.
He is. Yeah.
But I again, I do feel is that thing of like we don't trust people to think.
You're right. The church doesn't trust anyone to think for themselves.
I've seen it many times.
Yeah.
We don't trust people to think.
Because I think it's a fear of you might bring some heretical thinking into the church. So for you go from
Yeah.
trap beads to now we can wait, the Bible doesn't even say anything about swear words. And then it's like, oh yeah, what about this? You know what I'm saying? He start going like,
If you want to push it further, I honestly feel like it's because of power as well. And because there's a fear that if this person now brings something new, I have to now accommodate and now like think about it and be on top of it. In a sense, I myself as a person have to like acquire more knowledge on how to handle this kind of thing.
So you have to do the
So
work
I have
and
to do
stuff.
the work, and
Yeah.
I don't want to do this work
So
because I'm
is it
comfortable
almost
with
like
how-
a lazy approach of like, look, it's been like this for.
I agree because it requires.
don't think so, you
I
know.
feel like it requires more of a certain person in order to accommodate a new thing.
Because
Yeah.
And that in itself is a lot.
times will always change, you know.
Yeah, but I honestly think that sometimes the older generation, because I guess that's more specific right now about the older generation and taking on these new, I guess, quote unquote, beliefs and like practices into church. I generally feel someone might just scared, like they're scared of our salvation. So people are just scared. They're like,
What do you mean?
they don't know how far you can go Do you get what I'm saying? Because I think for a lot of the older generation who have these like religious beliefs, they are afraid that because they might have been on a path similar to yours, and for them it took them a long time, a very difficult way of kind of like maneuvering through to get back.
It's like they've gone
Do you
through
get what
so
I'm
much of the stress. They
And-
want to make it as easy for you, but
and-
actually they complicate it further.
Yeah, because it's like, you know, when your parent, for example, says, don't do this, don't do that, don't do this. I've
Because
done
when
it before. It
yeah,
hurts me.
yeah,
Don't do this.
yeah.
And then your mind is like, oh, you're limiting me. You don't want me to have fun. But then they're like, I'm trying to protect you. So it's like, I think it's a double-edged sword where it's like they're trying, but
But when you're not
doing the opposite
providing
effect.
like all the context, because sometimes people just say stuff and they don't say, "Don't do this. It's bad. It hurt me." That's what you're saying. You're not telling me how it hurt you. You're
Damn,
not
that ain't enough.
No, because sometimes like you need to know a bit more. Because like it can come from a good place.
Do you feel like that would have changed your mind?
I think so.
Really?
At least if you
I
journeyed
think
me
there are
through a bit
discussions
more and
that
actually
you
let
have,
me know
yeah.
where that was coming from. Because I feel like a lot of the time people just like, for some people, let's say for my parents or like for my family, they will say, "Oh, you need to pursue a certain job because it's a very good job and it's very secure." I now took that for like the majority of like childhood, teenage years, and in the future I realized, oh, the only reason why my like family did this is because they needed to survive, because they moved to a new country. If I had that context, it would have helped me. Exactly.
Yeah,
And that's the
It
thing,
wasn't
like
your reality, of
the
course.
world is changing as well, and I think sometimes you can have those great viewpoints or like that, you can mean well, but you also have to accommodate for the world that we live in at the moment and how your child is too. Maybe they might be a bit different, maybe they might not be as naive, but like if you talk them through it and have more of a conversation on it, then maybe you're able to like have an understanding on how to better guide them
Of course. Of course.
and stuff
We
like
need
that.
we need to trust God more. That's what I'll say. Because you know what? I think sometimes I think the older generation and even us, we're becoming that essentially.
Yeah, raw.
Yeah.
The old heads down.
But like we want the.
We're still in our 20s, bro.
I think sometimes we're like, actually, look, trust me, trust the way I did it, because actually the way I did it, you'll be safe, you'll be okay.
But it's not true.
But it's not true, and that's so. It goes back to the point again, where I was saying like, when I put my faith in Jesus and He changes everything for me, He says the Holy Spirit comes in you and teaches you the way. But you're not allowing the Holy Spirit to teach me. You're not allowing God to teach me. And I think that's the thing. We've kind of replaced. So like sometimes the leaders of these organizations basically replace God to say, follow my ways and you'll be fine.
But the way is full of fear.
But
Yeah.
and this is why I say power, because they're the ones saying, I'm the person of authority. I talk to God. Like me and God have a rapport.
And you don't.
Stuff. So
And you don't.
trust
You
me.
get, yeah.
And sometimes you don't think like, oh, this person actually might have a different thing to offer that's actually quite valuable.
Yeah.
But it's like, no.
Yeah, honestly, it's very difficult.
And I think
to
another
take
thing I'll say is that sometimes actually, sounds crazy, but sometimes actually the rise of other thoughts and belief systems can actually be healthy. Because actually what it does, it creates conversation and debate. And I think that is important because that challenges your thought and your thinking.
Yeah.
And I think what is more important to me is that what you believe, you actually believe it. You don't just follow what somebody's told you to do. Do you get what I mean? So, yeah, man. Thanks, guys, for tuning in to today's episode of Rule of Thirds. Feel free to share your thoughts with us using the hashtag RuleOfThirdspod. And for more from us, follow us on Instagram at RuleOfThirdspod, or our personal accounts for myself, Burns JNR,
Mike at _ man like Mike.
And Jude at Kente Kwame.
Catch you guys in the next one.